Hello, hello. Turn my music up here. Hold on. Let's get it going. Hold on. There we are. Hello, 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 everyone. I hope all is well. And there we go. I hope that's loud enough. My computer was running, as always, my computer it'd be like this every week. I'm not even going to hold y'all. I need a new computer. I need a new computer. Okay, so I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited that we get a chance to talk through. We're back on our regular night of Mondays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am also kind of like juggling around whether this is the best day or not. So feel free to let me know in the messages if there's like a better date or time. It'll probably be the same time, to be honest. It's probably going to be evenings, but a different day may be in the works. I'm not sure. So we will definitely talk through that, or I'll definitely think through that. Oh, hi, Yuru. Welcome back. I'm back on the regularly scheduled programming. I hope all is well with you. I'm excited for today because, hello, Shaphonia. I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm excited to kind of talk through today's overview. We're in part 3 of understanding our emotions. This is the third part and final part in talking through this subject. I want to kind of just make sure that I revisit what we've talked through so far, just for anybody that hasn't listened to any of the other videos. But if you want the detail, you can always go back to the previous ones. They'll be tagged in the comments once I post this live, or most likely in the bio. It'll be posted in there, so that we can go back and review the old videos. But today we're going to be talking through how our behaviors affect our emotions. So the first session was all about emotions and just talking about our emotions in general. The second session is how our thoughts affect our emotions and how they impact how our emotions change and all of that. Today is about our behaviors and how that affects our emotions. So third and final part, I know I talked about, I want to say it was in the second session, I went into a little bit more detail about how thoughts impact emotions, emotions impact behaviors, and vice versa. It kind of just goes into one big circle. So I wanted to make sure that in finishing out this session that we talked about behaviors and actions specifically. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of an overview of how behaviors affect our emotions. And then I have 6 affirmations that will help us through that. So feel free to take notes if you wish to. If you need me to repeat anything, definitely let me know. Please talk back to me. I want to hear your feedback. If you have any questions or need me to repeat anything, let me know. Like the live. Make sure to like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, so let's kind of just talk through behaviors and how they affect our emotions. So I have about just 4 quick points that I want to make prevalent. For one, our behavior mirrors our thoughts and emotions either consciously or subconsciously. So that's the first point that I want you guys to understand. It's going to mirror our thoughts and our emotions. And sometimes you'll see yourself take actions that are either self-sabotaging or take actions that are not necessarily reflective of your thoughts, but because of whatever emotions you suppressed in the past, those are what's coming up to the surface, and that's why you're acting the way that you're acting. Again, either intentionally or not intentionally. So understand that about actions and behaviors. The second point I want to make is our behaviors directly impact our relationships and our environments. So when it comes to our mental state, our behaviors are the highest factor that actually makes sense to the people in the environment around us. So even though your thoughts may be thinking one thing, your emotions internally may be, feeling one thing, your actions may reflect or have a perception of something totally different. So that's how others may view you, and that's how you end up in the environments that you're in. Also, it reflects your living space. So, based off of how your thoughts and your emotions are going on, when you're looking around your living space, it may reflect there as well. So, you may not clean as much if you're overly stimulated with stress, or you may not, keep your space organized. It may look cluttered, or you may end up just collecting things and just holding on to things because of the things that's the one thing that you can control. So if you're unable to control your emotions, or you're unable to control your actions, or just your thoughts, like if your mind is racing really heavily, you may find things in your environment that you try to control, whether it be other people or just small things. It could just be, I'm collecting this, and this is something that I'm hoarding on to because it's the only thing that I can control. So understand our behaviors directly impact our relationships as well as our environments. The third point I want to make is behaviors impact our patterns. So it keeps us in the cycle, right? And it reinforces negative habits. So the more that we have actions and behaviors that are negative, the more that it reinforces those negative thoughts and negative feelings. So if we're not intentional about our behaviors and our actions, we're going to regurgitate what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And if it's always negative, or it's always skewed negative, then our actions are going to reflect that. So, and it doesn't have to be very overly impactful behaviors. It could be as simple as avoidance or procrastination. Again, I talked about self-sabotage. It could just be self-sabotage. So just keeping in mind that your behaviors impact your patterns, which also adds to the cycle of your thoughts and your emotions. And then the last point I want to make is behaviors enhance your personal growth. So being intentional about your actions provides space for growth. So we have to, even on the positive side, when it comes to our behavior and actions, we have to be intentional about making the positive or the right decisions, even when it doesn't feel good. So yeah, that's the last point I wanted to make sure that we remembered or take into consideration when it comes to our behaviors. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. If this resonates, let me know. And I can go ahead into the affirmations. Let me just pull those up here. Okay, so yes, I have 6 affirmations that are going to align with what we talked about as far as behaviors. Again, I say this every live, but feel free to use these affirmations however you wish to use them. If you need to change the language, go ahead and change the language. If you need to adjust, hey Kiki, welcome in. If you need to adjust that, the way that they sound, if you need to adjust, even if there's ones that you're just like, okay, I don't really like that one, feel free not to write that down. It's perfectly okay. This is just a guide. This is just to provide support. So definitely use them however you wish to. If you want to write them down in your journal, write them down on your sticky notes. If you want to record them, feel free to do that. However you wish to use them, by all means do that. So affirmation number 1. Okay, so affirmation number 1 is I choose actions that uplift my emotional state and bring joy. I choose actions that uplift my emotional state and bring joy. I'll say that a third time. I choose actions that uplift my emotional state and bring joy. So with this one, just understanding that we have to intentionally choose actions. We have the power to intentionally choose the actions that we take and the behaviors that we exhibit, right? So if we intentionally choose things that uplift us and uplift the people around us versus bringing us down or bringing down the other people around us, we'll be in a much better state. Does it always work? No, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes it's not the best day. You have a rough day. It's stressful. You're frustrated, and our emotions get the best of us. I'm not saying that that's never going to happen. By all means, it will. But when it comes to intentionally choosing, if you're acting out 50% of the time, if you intentionally choose, could you get that down to 25% of the time or 30% of the time? It's about mitigating, what we're currently doing and where our current state is. So I choose actions that uplift my emotional state and bring joy. That's number one. Number two, every positive action I take enhances my emotional well-being. Every positive action I take enhances my emotional well-being. So it's not about just uplifting the state and bringing us joy in that moment, but it's also enhancing our overall emotional well-being. So it's not about just in that moment. It's about how do we enhance our overall state? How can we think about our emotional state holistically in all different avenues? So every positive action we take, whether big or small, can enhance our emotional well-being overall. Okay, so that's how powerful our behaviors and our actions are. And I think that we don't necessarily think about it in that way, but thinking about it in a way of, even if it's just a small positive action that enhances my emotional well-being, that makes me better, that puts me in a better place. One step at a time, one day at a time. Hi, Christina, welcome in. So just thinking about it in that way, changing our perception in regards to how our actions actually impact our well-being. Sometimes we just think of it as, okay, this isn't going to impact me at all. This is just what it is. But that's not necessarily the case. Any action that we take within a day can impact us, whether positively or negatively. And we want to be on the positive side more likely than the negative side. So that's number two. Every positive action I take enhances my emotional well-being. Number three, I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. I'll say that one more time. I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. So being intentional, again, I'm going to say that a lot today. Being intentional with our actions makes it easier to make decisions, right? So if we're intentional about our core beliefs, what our values are, if we really truly understand like what our core values are, who we are, and what we want our values and our actions to exhibit, it makes it easier for us to make decisions. Most of the time, we're having a hard time making decisions and taking the right actions because we're compromising too much on our core values and on our core beliefs. So, for example, one of my core beliefs, and I'll share this with you, my core beliefs or my core value really is authenticity, gratitude, honesty, compassion, and kindness, right? So those are my core values. That's what I value in life, and that's what I want to make sure that I exhibit when I am interacting with anyone that I come across, right? So authenticity, gratitude, honesty, compassion, and kindness, right? So when I'm wrestling back and forth on how I'm going to act in a particular way because of my emotions and because of my feelings, right? I resort back to my core values. So if it goes back to whether I should be honest in a certain situation. So my feelings tell me, nah, we're going to lie about this, okay? We're going to lie and we're going to hide and we're going to kind of go around, and we're gonna lie about this because of my own emotional feelings about whatever situation. If I think about what my core values are in that moment, my core value is honesty. So am I going to listen to the emotion, or am I going to listen to my core value? That's the internal conflict that we have. And that's why when we make these decisions, when it comes to our emotions and how we react to things, that's where shame comes in or guilt comes in after the fact. So say your core value is honesty. Because of how I was feeling in that particular moment, I decided to lie. And now that after I lied, now when I go back and think about it, I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have lied. So then guilt comes in. And then because of guilt coming in and then shame, we don't go back and try to fix the situation. We just let it go. So now that we let it go, the guilt and the shame continues to spiral in the cycle in our minds, which then goes into depression. Now I'm sad, I'm frustrated because I feel guilty, and I feel shameful because of what I did. I don't know how to fix it, yada, yada, yada. It spirals, right? It continues to go down a long hill. Now, if we rewind, right? We go back to the original decision. Okay, so I know that this is how I'm feeling. I want to lie. My core values tells me to be honest. So I'm going to choose to be honest, right? So now when it comes to being honest, okay, I was honest in this situation. Now I know that it was just a perception that I probably shouldn't have had in the first place. We resolved it, it's squashed. Now my well-being is in a better state, right? Because of the fact that I told the truth, it ended up not being what I thought it was in the first place. And now I can just move on with my life. Now, granted, does that happen in every scenario? No. Sometimes you may be honest and then it just blows up in your face and it creates a whole situation. But if you are shifting your thought process to being under your core values and making decisions based on that, it makes making decisions of your actions and behaviors much easier than it is to compromise it within every situation. I hope this makes sense, and I hope this is helpful. It's not an easy fix. It's something that you have to actually progressively work on. But once you start doing it that way, you'll actually start to see the benefits of it. And then from that, then you'll be more empowered to continue doing it that way. Hey, Jay, welcome in. Yes. Every Monday at 8 p.m. I've been a little flaky these past couple of weeks, so it's been on different days and stuff like that. But primarily Monday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope this is helpful. Awesome. So I hope that this is helpful as far as number 3. I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. If you don't know what your values or core beliefs are, journal them. Really take some time to think about what your core beliefs are and what your core values are. So, and just to kind of give you a little bit of tidbit of what's the difference between the two. Your core values is based upon what you want to exhibit when you're in the company of other people, right? So what do you believe is a value you should have? What's important to you when it comes to relationships? Those are what your core values are. And having like a solid 5 is a great start. It doesn't mean you have to have a 5. It doesn't mean that you have to have more than that or less than that. That's just kind of like the standard, I would say. So just thinking about 5 is a good thing. I do have a video somewhere. I have to find it that talks about core values a little bit more. Once I find it, I'll tag it into this video so that way you guys can go back to it and listen to that one. Your core beliefs is basically where you gain your morality from. So whether it be religion or whatever, what is morally right to you, that's what your core beliefs would be. Sometimes our core beliefs are skewed because of trauma and triggers. So it's good to kind of think through like what your core beliefs are, and then explore them with a therapist to see, okay, is this a core belief or is this a reaction to trauma? A lot of times you will think like a core belief could be that's actually like associated with trauma would be, let me think, that a core belief that's a good one that's actually a trauma is that I don't like people. Because sometimes I think that way too. And it's like, oh, I don't like people. And it's like, do you really not like people? Or was it a lot of people that just came in and created trauma in your life, and now that's the reason you don't like people? So thinking about like what your core beliefs are, what your morals are, how you live your life is another way to view what your core beliefs are, because that's how you can discover triggers and traumas that you may not be aware of. So yeah, I'll end it there because core beliefs and core values are definitely like a whole nother live. Like there's a lot that goes into that. But just wanted to make sure I gave you some tidbit as far as like what that meant when I say those words. Yes, there is. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, girl. There is a core values meditation, and it has a journaling aspect of it. Actually, yes, you're right. There's about 150 videos. I think I'm at like 140 or 150 videos on my YouTube. So me remembering all of the videos that I do. Listen, I can't remember. But yes, I'll go back and find that one, and I'll add it to the links in the bio. Okay, so that was number 3. I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. Number 4, I am in control of my actions and therefore in control of my emotions. I am in control of my actions and therefore in control of my emotions. I'll say that again. I am in control of my actions and therefore in control of my emotions. Now, I want to sit and explain this a bit because it may sound a little wonky, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, if I'm in control of my actions, therefore I can be in control of my emotions. When it comes to control of our emotions, it's not necessarily, the goal isn't to change those emotions. That's not the goal, because the emotions are very valid, not necessarily valid based off of perception, but just valid that they're there, that they exist. So we don't necessarily want to change our emotions, but practicing self-discipline and practicing restraint when it comes to situations and our actions and behaviors will work backwards. So let me explain. So when we think of our thoughts and our emotions, our thoughts start here, our emotions start here, right? So when it comes to our behaviors, they're out here. So typically when we think of our controlling our behaviors, we think of, okay, start here, then start here, then it will portray out there. But if we think of it in the reverse and work both ways, so they'll start to catch each other, right? So if we're here and this is what we're dealing with out here, restraining ourselves here will help us to reflect here. So then that will then change here. Does that make sense? I needed to give a visual so that way you guys kind of like understand what I'm saying. So if we can practice some like restraint here and really say, okay, I know that I feel this way. I know that I'm frustrated. I know that my emotions are up here, but I'm not going to say anything right now, right? I'm going to keep this to myself and I'm going to process it first. And then I'm going to come back and then have a conversation about it. So that's restraining here in the outward. It's going to our thoughts. We're processing it, right? We're thinking through it. We're really trying to make sense of it and understand it, which will then reflect here. So then that changes, or not necessarily changes, but allows us to be curious about here. So then that way it changes our emotions here, right? So that's how we go from I'm angry to Okay, I understand this. I thought through this. This was my perception. This is actually what really happened. Okay, you know what? I'm content here now. Okay. So, not to say that one cycle works better than the other, it's more so of practicing both. So, practicing one, my restraint, my self discipline affects my thoughts, which affects my heart, or my heart reflects my thoughts and reflects my actions. It should go both ways. I hope that makes sense. Um, so that is that one. Number 4, I am in control of my actions and therefore in control of my emotions. Let me make sure I went through all of my notes here. Oh yeah, I did. So I covered all my notes. Perfect. Number 5, I embrace actions that lead to growth and learning, enhancing mental flexibility. I embrace actions that lead to growth and learning, enhancing my mental flexibility. I'll say that a third time. I embrace actions that lead to growth and learning, enhancing my mental flexibility. Mental flexibility is basically being adaptable, being optimistic, being curious, and creative problem solving, thinking outside of the box, not having, again, kind of going back to these core beliefs and core values, but having rigidity when it comes to those core values and core beliefs. It's like this is the end all be all, that's it. Now, your core values, yes, your core beliefs could be skewed, right? So, taking that into consideration when it comes to embracing actions that lead to growth. Sometimes we have a hard time growing because we can't think outside of the box, right? We can't think from other perceptions. We can't think with sympathy and empathy, putting ourselves in other people's shoes. We don't have respect for other people's opinions. And because of that, and just because you respect someone's opinions don't mean that you agree with them. It's just a matter of you respect them as an individual. And even though they have this opinion that I don't agree with, I at least just respect the fact that they have an opinion. Um, and taking the time to think outside of the box when it comes to that. One way that I have gotten better at that is intentionally putting myself in situations, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is just how I've gotten better at it. Intentionally putting myself in situations with people that I know don't think like I do. We have a tendency to gravitate towards people that think the way that we do, that have the same backgrounds, that have the same experiences, and that's all great, and that's great and lovely and beautiful for community. But if you want to grow, put yourself in situations where you're speaking to people that you wouldn't necessarily speak to. And it's easy to do when it comes to, like, is there, someone at work or, someone that's just in the spaces that you're in, but doesn't necessarily, isn't necessarily a person that you would speak to on a regular basis. And just getting to know them and just being very, intentional about getting to know people that aren't like you. In doing that, that helps me be a little bit more open and empathetic to people that don't have the same backgrounds or the same ideas that I do. One, it helps me to learn more about other things that I've never known about. Two, it gives you perspective on things that you may have like really high judgments on. And three, it puts you into a new sense of community because of the fact that you're building relationships with someone that's not necessarily someone that you would talk to. But in that helps you to be more flexible. I think sometimes we're just not flexible because we just don't have enough exposure to it. And then when we do get exposure to it, either willingly or unwillingly, it creates a sense of, I'm trying to think of the right word. It just creates a sense of rigidity that cannot that can impact your behaviors and actions in a very negative way. Um, so just keep that in mind. When it comes to mental flexibility, you want to be, now again, not with your core values. Your core values is one thing. But when it comes to core beliefs about other people and groups of people and things of that matter, you want to be adaptable. You want to be open-minded. You want to be optimistic. You want to be curious. And you want to also practice creative problem solving in those situations. So I embrace actions that lead to growth and learning, enhancing my mental flexibility. That's also in addition to what you're watching. It's also in addition to the music that you listen to. It's also, in addition to just the things that you're reading. Sometimes we just gravitate towards the things that we are most comfortable with, but why not learn? Is there anything in your space that you want to learn more about, or some things that you're just curious about that you want to dig into? Thinking of like very thinking of things that just actually are exciting, but you know nothing about is one thing. For me, I watch documentaries all the time. I watch a lot of documentaries. Now, I may be a little bit of a geek, but but just thinking of things outside of the box, out of your norm, sparks creativity. It sparks inspiration. It sparks so many things, but it also sparks mental flexibility. So just keep all of that in mind. Number 6, I went on a tangent on that, but I hope that is helpful. Number 6, I acknowledge the power of my actions and choose actions that reflect my highest potential. I acknowledge the power of my actions and choose actions that reflect my highest potential. I'll say that one last time. I acknowledge the power of my actions and choose actions that reflect my highest potential. Kiki says, so right, I created a separate YouTube. Oh, just for dopamine detox. I like that. Paying attention to what I'm consuming. We process so much subconsciously that affects us subconsciously. Yes. Yes, because if you think about it, if just thinking about reality TV. Now, I am a reality TV person. So I will watch reality TV, but I do limit it. And there's some days that I make sure that I don't watch it because I don't want to overwhelm my psyche with the negativity that comes with reality TV. So like there's some days where I'll sit and listen to a book. I love Audible books. I'll just sit and listen to a book on a topic that I am interested in. I love Audible books, and I love, especially if you're one that, I don't like to say I hate to read because I don't hate to read, but sometimes I just don't feel like it. But I do want to know, get the knowledge from it. So thinking of, sitting in on an Audible book, or if there's like types of music that I like I've recently just started getting back into jazz and just listening to instrumentals versus like music with words. And it actually sparks creativity in my mind and gets me thinking a little bit more. So just thinking up outside of the box of things that you're curious about, but never thought to actually pursue, is a good thing. Yes, definitely in moderation. Okay. Look, my guilty pleasure is love after lockup. I know, guys. I know. I know. You don't gotta tell me. I already know. It's a guilty pleasure, but listen, it happens. All right. So just keep it in mind and being cognizant of all of that. And then last one, did I read that one yet? I think I did. But the last one was, I acknowledge the power of my actions and choose actions that reflect my highest potential. So just thinking about, where do you want to be when it comes to your highest potential? Now, one, of course, understanding that the power of your actions, right? And how those actions impact your life. But also being able to choose actions that reflect your highest potential, but you want to understand and visualize what your highest potential actually looks like. So what do you want to be? What does that person look like? What are the attributes of that person that is the highest potential of you? And then what actions would that person take, right? Thinking about the actions that the person of your highest potential what actions would that person take? If you ever heard the WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, also think about what would the highest potential Debbie do, okay? And would she do? And let's base my decision making off of that, right? And Jesus, of course. What would Jesus do? Think about that too. Um, but yeah, so just acknowledging the power of your actions, choosing actions that reflect your highest potential, but even taking that a step further before you actually make that decision on what, reflecting on the highest potential, really taking a time to really think about that, what that looks like, what those attributes are, and what would the person of your highest potential do. So that was number 6. I hope that was helpful. Yes, love after lock. Listen, I know it's bad. But I can't help it. It's so entertaining. So that was number 6. I hope that was helpful. I'll read back through from the top, just in case anyone missed. But of course, this will be saved so everyone can go back and listen to it back. Number 1 was I choose actions that uplift my emotional state and bring joy. Number 2 was every positive action I take enhances my emotional well-being. Number 3, I empower myself by taking actions that align with my values and core beliefs. Number 4, I am in control of my actions and therefore in control of my emotions. Number 5, I embrace actions that lead to growth and learning, enhancing my mental flexibility. And number 6, I acknowledge the power of my actions and choose actions that reflect my highest potential. So I hope that this is helpful. Many blessings to all of you that are watching. Thank you, Kiki. Please make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And this live will be every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. For now, we'll see if it changes. I know that my classes for next semester are both evening classes. So I don't know. We'll see. I may or may not change the day. I think I want to change it to a different day, maybe Tuesdays. But I feel like my classes next semester are Wednesday, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So if that's the case, if I do change it, it'll probably be Tuesdays or Fridays. But I don't want to interrupt my Friday. No. I don't want to interrupt my Friday nights. Like if I want to go somewhere or if I want to go like out of town, like it's probably going to happen on Friday. So no, it most likely will either stay on on Monday or it will switch to Tuesdays. But for now, we'll keep it on Monday. You're welcome. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, Hiru. Thank you, Shifonia. I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I can't wait to see you guys next week. I don't know what next week's topic will be, but I will be back on my regular schedule, so you should see a meditation come in this week as well. So see you all next time.